Hi everyone, Ravi this side. Welcome to Engineering Adda. So today we are going to cover the topic Docker Compose. So I will be telling you how you can create your Docker Compose.yml file and how you can configure everything inside it so that we can create this container of the application that we are going to develop. We can create the container of the database that we are going to use, and we can link both of them together using Docker Compose file. So we need to do some configuration there in the Docker Compose file. So I will try to show you how you can do that. So here in this video, I'm going to develop one Spring Boot CRUD project, and the database that we are going to use is MySQL, and with the help of Docker Compose file, we'll try to create the container of the application as well as the database, and we'll try to link both of them. So it is a single file, and using the Docker Compose only, we have to do some configuration, and once the Docker Compose file is up, then it automatically take care of creating the containers of the application and the database and taking care of the connection between them. So let me try to go next, and then let me try to show you what is Docker Compose. So Docker Compose is nothing but it's a command line tool that uses a specially formatted descriptor file to make multiple containers and assemble them into an applications. So let's say in the earlier video I already showed you that how you can create the container of the application as well as the database and how you can communicate them using the Docker commands. But here with the help of Docker Compose we'll try to configure such things that it will automatically create the container for the application as well as for the database, and it will try to get the communication between them. Okay, so this is what Docker Compose do. So it can take care of the multiple containers which can then be run on a single host. Okay, so this is about the Docker Compose. Let me try to read out the features of the Docker Compose. So the application services are configured using YML files. Okay, so we need to create one YML file for the Docker Compose, and maybe you wonder what is Docker Compose main benefit? Most certainly the fact that it allows users to run commands on several containers at the same time. So this is the main feature of the Docker Compose. We have created multiple containers, and on the multiple containers we can run the command at the same times. So with the help of the Docker Compose we can do that. This means that the developers can write a YML configuration file for their application service and subsequently use just one command to start it. So I will show you everything about the Docker Compose, how you can try to create your Docker Compose file, how you can create a container of the application, create the container of the database, and how you can communicate between them. So everything I will show you. So let's get started. Let me go to the IntelliJ and try to create one application, and then I will try to show you how we can carry out our work. So let me try to create one Spring Boot Mongo Docker Compose file. Okay, so let me go next. This is the web application, so we need to include the Spring Web as well as I'm using Lombok, and the database that we are going to use is MongoDB. So Spring Data Mongo DB that we are going to use. So let me go next, create this and then new tab. It will take few seconds to configure itself to download all the starter dependency that we have added. So once it is done with the configuration, then what we can do, we can start with the developing our applications. So yeah, let me go to the source and then see if it is configured or not. Yeah, it is configured. Let me try to quickly create couple of packages. So let's say it's entity. Okay, repo. I'm not going to create the service class. I'm directly going to call the uh, MongoDB provided methods inside the controller. So I'm going to create the controller. Let's say it's a package controller. Okay, so let me try to create the entity called student. Okay, add it. Or let me try to create the entity called product. So let me refactor this. Let's say it's product. Okay, let me try to create the instance of the product. So let's say private int teaser id, product name and quantity. Private string name. Okay, and then private string quantity. So I'm going to create this quantity as a integer. Okay, so this is what the inst this is all the instance variables that we have created. Now let me try to use this as a ID. Okay, and let me try to create the getter and setters and all argument and no argument constructors for this. And let me try to create the collection for this class. So collection, and name of the collection should be product. Okay, so we are done with the configuration and creation of our entity class. Now let me go to the repo and create a product repo here. So it is product repo. Let me try to extend it with the Mongo repository. Mongo repository. Here we need to pass these two arguments. First is the entity name, which is product, and ID of the entity. So it is integer type. And let me try to come here and create the product controller. Okay, so this is the controller class. So let me try to annotate this with the REST controller as well as request mapping. So it is request mapping. Let me do some mapping here. So let's say it is API, or let's say it's product, something like that. Okay, now what we need to do, I'm going to create a get mapping as well as the put mapping, sorry, post mapping. So let's say the method for this is uh, public, and the return type should be of product type, product. Okay, and let's say it's a get product, something like that, get product. Okay, now let me try to import this class here. Okay, and let me try to provide some mapping here. Let's say product. Okay, or find all. So it will return the list of the product from the database. Okay, so here let me try to create a list. Okay, so it will return the list of products. So let's say it's a list of product. Okay, and so here we need to call the Mongo repository provided method. So with the help of that, we can find out all the product from the database. So for that, I'm going to autowire the product repository here. So let's say autowire private product repo, product repo. Okay, let me remove this space. Let me add some space here. So uh, let me try to call the product repo here and then find all method from the Mongo repository, and then simply return it. So it will find out all the product from the database and it will return from here. Now let me try to create one post mapping. So let's say it's a post mapping, and the mapping I'm providing here is insert, and we are inserting one product here, and return type of this method is product only. So let's say insert product. Okay, here we need to pass the product as a request body. request body product. Okay, product, and we need to call the Mongo repository provided method, which is save, to save the entry into the database. So, and pass the reference of product here, and then simply return it. So these two mappings I have created for now. Now what I am going to do, I am just going to do the configuration for the database connectivity here. So for that, what I need to do, I need to create one application.yml file, and there I will try to do the configuration. Okay, so let me try to create one application.yml file. So it is application.yml. Okay, so it is Spring Mongo, Spring Data MongoDB. I think, yeah, Spring Data dot MongoDB. We need to provide the database host and the port name. So let's say database is product, and host, I'm going to provide localhost. But uh, when we are going to create the container for the MongoDB database, then we need to change this host name. We need to provide the host name on which the container is active, the MongoDB container is active. So we need to provide that host name here. For now, I'm just keeping as a local host. So let is the port is the default port for the MongoDB, which is 27017. So we are done with the configuration. We need to change this host name. Okay, so now let me try to build these applications to create the jar file of it. So before that, I'm going to write the Docker file. Okay, so let me try to create a Docker file here. So let me try to create a Docker file, new, and then file, Docker file. You need to keep the Docker file name like this only. D should be capital, and then after that, everything should be small. Okay, so here we need to do some configuration. So we need to include the OpenJDK. So for that, we need to do from OpenJDK, and I'm using the version 17. Now we need to create the jar file. So for that, we need to provide the space or the location where the jar file will be created, and the jar file name, and then the entry should be created. So let's say it's add and target. Inside target folder, we are going to create the jar file. So let's say target slash, we need to provide the jar file name. So let's say I'm going to name this like Spring Boot Docker, and then we need to provide Docker Compose, or Spring Boot Docker Compose, something like that, compose. Okay, dot jar. So this is this location where it will be generated. Provide the jar name here, and the entry point should be it should be Java minus jar, and then we need to provide the jar file name. So let me copy this and then paste it out here. Okay, let me remove this space. So we are done with the configuration of the Docker file. Now let me try to go to the application pom.xml file, and let me try to write one configuration here, which is final name, and let me try to give the name of the jar file should be where is that Docker file. Let's say the jar file name is Spring Boot Docker Compose. Okay, so come to the pom.xml, paste it out here. Okay, so we are done with the configuration of the Docker file application.yml file, and now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create the Docker image of this application, as well as I'm just going to create the or pull the Docker image of the MongoDB database that we are going to use. So the images for both of the application MongoDB as well as the Spring Boot application that we have created should be ready. And after that, we need to create the Docker Compose file where we'll try to automatically create the container for both of them and try to get a link between them. So we'll do that after this. So now let me try to build this application. So go to the Maven and then go and use the Maven install. So it will create the Docker image. Sorry, it will create the jar file inside the target folder. So here some target folder will be generated and inside that the jar file will be created. Okay, and where this application is, so it is inside project. So you can see one target folder is created here. Now let me go inside this and you can see our jar file is ready. So now let me go to the application location. So let me go here, go to the project and inside the project, okay, let me come out of it. Here inside this project and here you can see we have created this project here. So you need to open the folder structure where your Docker file is there and you need to open a command prompt here. Okay, so let me try to increase the size of the command prompt. Let's say 28. Okay, let me close this and open it again. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to create a Docker image of our application. So before that, I'm just trying to show you what all the images I have. So command is docker images, docker images. So you can see I have all these images in my local. So it is Spring Boot, MySQL, Docker, Mongo app, and everything is there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one Docker image of our application. So for that, the command is docker build -t, and then we need to provide the image name. So let's say it's Spring Docker Compose, Spring Boot Docker Compose, or something like that. Spring Docker Compose, Spring Docker Compose. Okay, so this is the image name that I'm going to provide, and then space, and then we need to provide the root here, and then enter. So it will create one image with the name Spring Docker Compose. So let me try to run the command docker images again to show you if it is created or not. So you can see here Spring Docker Compose is created, which is 7 seconds ago. So now we are done with the creation of our Docker image of our Spring Boot application. What I need to do, I need to pull the MongoDB image. So I already have the MongoDB image locally. So if you don't have, you need to run the command docker pull mongo, okay, and then enter. So it will take out the latest MongoDB image from the Docker hub. So you can see uh, it has pulled the Docker image of MongoDB. So we have the Docker image of our application, we have the Docker image of our database. Now what I need to do, I need to create one container uh, of the MongoDB database and of the Docker Compose application that we have created. So we need to create the container of both of them, database as well as the application. So I'm not going to create those things by the Docker commands. I'm directly going to create the Docker Compose file and then there we'll try to do the configuration that it automatically create itself and then it will pick up. So let me go there to the application and then let me try to create the Docker Compose file. So let's say, let me minimize this. So let me go to the resource and then let me try to create. So here also or anywhere you can create in the folder structure. Okay, so let's say the file name is docker compose .yml, add it. Now here we need to do some configuration. Let's say I'm going to use the version as 5 and we need to create the services here. So let's say services. So inside the services we need to create the containers. So one container I'm going to create for the MongoDB, and the another is I'm going to create for the application that we have created. So let's say I'm going to name the container for the MongoDB as engineering adda. So let's say it's engineering adda. Okay, and images of that container is Mongo, which is already there locally in our system. So let it test. The version I'm going to use is latest one. Now we need to provide the container name, which is engineering adda. Okay, and the port for that. So default port for the MongoDB is 27017. So 27017, and this is where the first port number is to expose to the entire world, and this is the internal one. So it is 27017. I'm keeping both of the port as same. Now let me try to copy this and then try to create the container for the our application as well. So here let me paste it out and let me change the name. So the container name for this application should be the application, the Docker image name that we have created. So let me go here, Docker images. Okay, let me try to copy this and then let me try to come here and then paste it out. And image name is this only, and the container name should be the same one. So, and the port number that I'm going to make our application up is 90902 for the entire world, and the default port I'm going to use here for our application as an internal one. So we are done with the configuration of our Docker Compose file. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to link both of the containers. So for that, we need to have one configuration as link, and we need to provide the container name of our MongoDB container. So let's say it's engineering adda. So we are linking the application with the engineering adda. So we are done with the configuration of Docker Compose file. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to make this Docker Compose up. So let me try to summarize everything that we have done so far. So we have created the Docker image of our application. We have created the Docker image of our MongoDB, which we pulled from the Docker hub, and we have created this Docker Compose file where we created the container for our image, MongoDB image as well as the application image, and then we linked both of them. So let me try. One thing we forgot is we forgot to change the host name in our application.yml file. We need to provide the host name as the engineering adda, which is the container for our MongoDB. So let me copy this and then let me go to the application.yml file and then change this to the engineering adda. So now we are done, and then what I need to do, I need to do the Maven build again. So we need to build the jar file again, and then we need to create the image of our application again because we are changing this configuration now. So let me come here, let me try to do Maven install. So once our jar file is created, we need to create our image again. So let me try to remove that image first. So let me go to the Docker hub, sorry, Docker desktop, and then go to the Docker image. Here you can see I have created this image, Spring Docker Compose. Let me select this, and from here you can directly okay. So you can see it is deleted. So we don't have the image for our Spring Boot application. So you can see the build is success now. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create the Docker image again. So let me go to the terminal, and here what I have did, I already have run this command, I think. So this is the image name. Okay. And this is the command. So let me try to run it again so that we can create our Docker image. And so our Docker image should be created. Let me go to the Docker images. Okay, so you can see our Docker image is created 8 seconds ago. So we have created the image of our application. We have the image for the MongoDB, and we are good with the configuration as well. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to open up the Docker Compose. So we have the command Docker Compose up to make the Docker Compose application up and running. And from there, it will automatically create the Docker container for both of them. And then it will link it. And from there, it will make our application up as well. So I will try to hit the API after that. So where is the Docker Compose? It is inside the resource folder. So I need to open a terminal there. So let me go to this location and open up a command prompt. And the command to make the Docker Compose up is Docker Compose and up. So it will, so you can see it has created the container for both of them. Okay, and then it will link both of them, and then it will make the Spring Boot application up. So let me maximize this. So it is doing those things. So you can see this application is up on the port number 8080, but for the external word we have configured our port as 9090. So I'm going to use that. So let me go to the Postman, and this is the API that we have developed to insert, and these are the request. So ID, name, and the quantity. So I'm making ID as 101, name is mobile, and quantity is 1, and we are just trying to insert something there. So let's say insert. So you can see, okay, the quantity is a string or what. Let me try to see. Go to this, go to the product. It is integer only. Then why it is not taking up? Okay, let me put a space. Let me try to send it again. Not a problem. It is QTY. Let me try to insert it. So you can see it is inserted. Now what I'm going to, so we are able to hit the API. Okay, our application is up and running. Very good. We are able to hit the API. We are able to insert some record into the database. So what I'm going to show you, I'm just going to open up the Studio 3D, and I'm just going to connect with the running instance of the MongoDB, which is running locally. So let me go to the Docker desktop, and let me go to the container, and then inside the resource you can see we have this EnggAdda as and the Spring Docker Compose. Both containers are up and running. Let me go to the EnggAdda. Okay, and this is the container for our MongoDB. Let me go to the inspect, and here you can see, uh, let me go down, let me go, yeah, here you can see this is up on the port number 27017, and this is the host for this. So let me copy this, and let me open the Studio 3D. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the Studio 3D with the running instance of our MongoDB, which is running in the Docker. So let the Studio 3D up. Once it is up, then I will try to connect. So it is up now. Let me try to create a new connection. Manual configure my connection setting. Next, if you don't know how you can install and connect the Studio 3D with the MongoDB, I already have the videos on my channel. You can watch it out. So let's say I'm going to name this connection as a Docker Compose. Okay, and the server is, uh, let me come to the Docker desktop. Let me copy this again. So it is 0.0.0.0. So let me copy this, come here, paste it out. Okay, let me try to type it manually. So we are done now. Let me try to test the connection. So you can see it is connected. Let's say it's okay, and then okay. And let me try to connect it out. So you can see we already have a this database called product, which we have did in the configuration. You can see here in the application.yml file, we have created our database as a product. Okay, so that is why it is created one database called product, and inside that one collection with the product is also created, because here in the entity we have configured the collection as a product. So let me go and then show you. So you can come to the entity, and here you can see we have configured our collection as a product. So product database and the product collection is created inside the MongoDB. So you can see this, and we have inserted one record there, right? So that record will also be there. So let me try to open this up. So you can see we have one record here uh, with ID 1, name is mobile, and the quantity is 1. So we are good with the configuration. We are good with the connection of the Studio 3T with the running instance of the MongoDB. We are able to hit the APIs, and we are able to insert something into the database. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hit the second API, which is a get API. So before that, let me try to insert some more records here. So let's say the ID is 102, and the name of the product is laptop, and the quantity is 1. I'm just keeping now, and let me try to send it out. So you can see it is inserted. Now let me go to the Studio 3T, and then let me try to show you. You can see the second item is also inserted here. Second product is also inserted. So we are good. Now let me try to hit the get mapping, which is find all. So find all, and then let me change this method type to get, and then hit it. So you can see we are able to fetch out all the record from the database. So we are good with the creation of everything that we covered in this video. So you can see like how the Docker Compose is working, how we can create the Docker container using the Docker Compose. Okay, so everything is working fine. So this is about this video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, and please subscribe the channel for more such content.